Hello, it's that time again. I've got a little update on my little game. I just want to show you a few different things in case any of them are of interest. So I think I actually can't remember what I showed you before. Got bombs now. I think I showed you the bombs, but I've done a bit of work on them. These are just walls I've placed. These are beacons, which you'll note are currently on. This is a switch, which currently works. Let's see what happens next. So we have destructible things and bombs make things stop working. I think I haven't showed you the things that need repairing. Oh, confused. Of course the door doesn't do anything now that it's broken. So that's... Oh, hello. Kind of where I'm at. The bombs are fun, a lot of fun. Let me put it on proximity mode. As you leave the arming radius, it arms. That's, I guess, fairly obvious. Let's send people to get killed. We missed the fun there. Let me make another bomb. And another wall. And we're armed. Now that switch is broken, so I have to make this commander open everything up. I'm going to put down another beacon to make sure everyone runs the right way immediately. Oh shit. Yeah. Okay. Well, hoist by my own petard, I think is a phrase that comes to mind. Yeah, so that's the new stuff. Let's have a look at some of the things I'm doing. Slight digression, these are some icons I've been doing. I've tried to get a consistent style. These are sort of placeholders, sort of not. I'm not the world's best artist, but here's some of the icons I've made. And they got alpha, so they look a bit prettier when they're on screen. This is what I do. I make it in Illustrator. What I need to do, this is a hack. I don't really know Illustrator. I use it once in a blue moon, so I forget all the things to do with it. But I have this invisible box that defines the extent of it, so that when I export it, it should export it as that tile, rather than zooming in on the things that are actually drawn. Yes. Many things about my process are probably non-ideal. But let's go. Wrench. So this is an icon for things which are unrepairable. I don't think it's the best bit of visual design, but who cares? So it's just a bitmap. There's no alpha in that. Now it should be straightforward to export alpha from Illustrator, but you know what, I just couldn't be bothered to find out how. So here's what I do. I just use the magic selection tool to select things around that. I need to tweak that because you get some grey bits at the curves and corners, so I just shift the edge in or out a bit. I think I shifted in. And then what I do is I make sure I'm black and white. I just use my gradient fill, which fills everything with black. That is outside the shapes. That's not sufficient to get what I want. I'm going to get rid of that alpha, make a new one, and do the reverse. Then I deselect and invert. This is a slightly weird way to do it, but that gives me what I want, which is the design there. In fact, have I think it works. And then I just save it off. So let me just implement this. So I'm going back to Unreal. I'm going to import my texture, wrench destroyed. So there we've got it. I'm now going to modify, let me think. Activated icon, that's a game object. If I ever stop developing this, it's going to take me so long to get back into it. That's the downside of making these complicated things. So I think I have set highlight icon. Right. So this one sets it to be broken. If it's broken, I'm going to extend this out. So let's see, game object. Oh wait, I put it here. Breaking. Can be repaired. If it can be repaired, make it a broken icon. And I'm going to promote that to variable. Destroyed icon. Make it settable. Put it in there. Compile. Get that one. Choose that one. Set that as my destroyed icon. And put, yeah, that's there already. So with any luck, so I've set this to be broken, and what can't be repaired? Let me just hack this in to be something that cannot be repaired, and it's initially broken. Why not? And this one is initially broken but can be repaired. Right. So that is dead. Oh, and that's repairable. Repairable, dead. So if I try and repair that, nothing happens. I'd like to have a little sound, but it turns out that's a pain in the arse to do. This one can be repaired. So there we go. That's an icon processed, imported, and applied. So it'll be more obvious why the repair icon's not working. And I think if I put a bomb here, unlike any excuse to test bombs,
Go, 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 go!
especially if I can kill people at the same time. There we go. Boom. Right, so the door blew up in a slightly strange way. I think I might need to go back and see what happened there. Boom. Right, so but I think that's now broken that, and it's broken that, but that's not offering me a chance to repair. Anyway, so yeah, that kind of works. Alright, let's look at something else. What else have I done? These walls, destroyable walls. So this is a blueprint, which let me just drag that across. Placeholder door, of course, it's just a mesh, and I wanted this to explode when the bombs go off. So let's find a bomb. It's a placeable bomb. Just get it there for safekeeping. So if I edit the bomb, right, blow up. So when the bomb goes off, this is horrible, sorry. Wow, it is horrible. That bit's not used. Goodbye. So it gets everything. Alright, so there's two stages. The first one is to blow up people. Just tidy up my code as I go. Down you go. And the next stage is to blow up things. So to blow up people, it cycles through every pawn. Now I've made a separate class that is a, let's see, it's a child of the character class. So you have pawn things, which are any controlled things. Character introduces some important stuff like the static mesh and the collision, and that's the most usable thing. That's the most appropriate level of abstraction for a lot of the stuff I'm doing. I create a child class so I can stick in all my stuff, and that is this push and kill character. So it's a character with stuff built in to allow it to be pushed and killed with just a function call kind of stuff. Let's go and look at that. What have I done with this character? I don't promise this is the best way to do it. It's a way to do it. So this has ragdoll stuff in it, and does stuff on the tick to do. Let's put recovery. Oh, I really need to put some branches in there. Oh no, I don't. Wait, I'll turn. I'm not doing anything with that. Right, so I've got a bit I tried out which didn't work. There's a great tutorial by somebody whose name I forget, and I don't have a copy of it to hand. But somebody's done a whole series of tutorials on doing ragdoll stuff, and there's a lot to it. Not all of it works or is applicable to my thing. Yeah, so this is stuff happening in every character, enemy AI, friendly AI, and the controllable character. So I've got a push pawn and a hurt pawn. So if bombs go off or you want to do a push, you just call this and the origin of the push, so the bomb location, for example. And there's a radius where everything gets pushed regardless, and then a larger, typically radius, it's going to break otherwise, where things only get pushed if they also have line of sight. So if you're behind a wall, you won't get pushed unless the wall is very close to a bomb, and the impulse is fudge, just a fudge factor. And similarly, you've got a hurt the pawn, the same parameters, so you've got the origin of where the hurt's coming from, and so on. And it checks you're in the radius. If appropriate, it checks the line of sight, and then it calls a hurt routine, which works out the damage to apply. It's a linear process. Now, this is duplicating what is in the radial damage thing, but I decided to go outside that system for various reasons I can't remember. I needed to extend it a bit and I wanted more control on it. So this replicates essentially the linear fall off in the radial damage built-in function, where I take the current radius and the maximum damage radius, take the proportion. So if that's 1, it means you're at the very edge of the blast radius, where you want the least damage. So I then subtract that from 1 and clamp it after doing a square, because I want that. I don't actually want. Okay, so it's not linear, it's a squared relationship, and that's probably why I wanted to do my own version. That just means that the damage drops off relatively quicker from the center, is the thing. It either drops off relatively quicker or relatively slowly. I think I'm right, but if I'm not right, it's the other one. Then I clamp it so that you don't get 0 damage ever, and you don't get full damage ever, which what that one does, that just smooths off the damage towards the center. So if you are at radius 0, you tend to get crazy results. Generally, that just means that for the first tenth of the distance, or whatever, that's not quite right, but the first bit of the distance, you get a uniform big damage, but it's not crazy numbers. And it's multiplied by your base damage. Nothing special there, that's just how I've done that. Little test. I'm going to unhook that because I think that works. And then it compares your damage to your health, and if it's less than your health, that thing dies. Otherwise, it updates health rated things. And one of the things there is to change the speed of the character. If a character is very damaged, the maximum speed is reduced. And I do that with a curve. I might show that in a second. I want to do an animation, but I haven't got that set up yet. And this weird thing, it's not ideal. This gets a level info actor, of which there is only one, or should only be one. And then it calls a sort of universal check the round ended thing. That could be the level blueprint instead. That would be neater, actually. So I think anywhere you can do get level. No, maybe not. But there must be some way to get level blueprint. And yeah, and so in my health rated thing, I get the current health, get it from the curve, which for a particular health returns a particular percentage of speed, and it multiplies that by the walk speed and sets that for the character. So this float value, let's find this. Why is that not working? Oh, because I'm being an idiot. And this just means that So the x-axis is health, not time. So at 50 health, you get a drop off from 100% walk speed down to a 0.6. So if you're near the edge of death, you are going at 60% of your speed. That just worked out all right when I was looking at it. And this general character child does other stuff. So a lot of it's to do with ragdolling. So if you are ragdolling, rather than the capsule being the thing that moves and everything else moves with it, when you ragdoll, you set physics on the mesh, so the mesh becomes detached. And this tick thing basically moves the capsule to where the mesh is. And when it unragdolls, well, let's find out what it does. There's other things, so and also checks the linear velocity. If you've basically stopped, it sleeps. That doesn't do anything at the moment, but that's a way to stop ragdolls twitching. Yeah, that's not something we do yet. So turn on ragdoll does this thing with physics. I'm following the tutorial, doing everything based on the pelvis. Set the physics blend weight and then set movement mode none. I think that's what I should do. That stops any input. And then when you turn the ragdoll off, checking you're not dead. If you're dead, you stay in ragdoll. This recovering thing just stops you getting crazy impulses once the ragdoll turns back to animation. That was supposed to be a long duration, so there'd be an intervening animation of getting up and stuff. I haven't done that yet, so I'll turn that down. I'll turn that down further. And then it undoes the simulate physics, reattaches the mesh to the capsule, and sets the transformation to what it was before you turned the ragdoll on. So that essentially includes that's mainly for the rotation, because the rotation of the mesh relative to the capsule will change when it ragdolls. You want to change that back, otherwise you get people walking sideways and stuff, and turn the movement mode back to walking. Yeah, and so with that setup, you get the, I have to admit, quite pleasing. So that's proximity mode. Let's go right back in. That's me dead because I was too near the bomb. So quite pleasing ragdoll stuff going on. Bombs are fun, and they do things like you can get chain reactions. Let's see. The order is important. Okay. Alright, just in time. Let's get out of the way. I should have blown that one up, it's perhaps on the edge. But so yeah, bombs are fun, and they introduce a lot of tactical possibilities because it's blown away the door, but some of the walls will be thin, so you can use bombs to blow apart walls to change the path. A mechanic I'm thinking of having is that you have a very limited selection of things, and you can choose either a spanner or a battery, or either a bomb or this commanding thing. I think that'll probably be in all the inventories. Because I want you to have different ways to finish the level, which is harder to design for. But so this thing is broken, but with a spanner you can fix it. And there can be bombs set out in levels, just waiting for you to avoid them or use them tactically. So you might sacrifice some of your people to blow a hole in a wall. Lots of those sort of design decisions. So hopefully it'll have quite complex, dare I say it, emergent stuff going on there. I'll have a think if there's anything else to talk about. Okay, one little thing here. These switches, let me just come out of that and go in a bit closer. These sort of switch units, the one on the right hand side is broken. What's this? Oh, what's that doing there? It's broken, and if you just toggle that, it should revert, and you can have it activated or not. Let's see, it is initially activated. I think I showed you this material before. I've just extended it. So what it does is it overlays this backdrop with a tick or a cross, and it blends it using the alpha of the tick or the cross. And I've extended it with this nice, well organized material. That there is this. So when it's broken, I want this to sort of scroll up. So that scrolls when it's broken, and it overlays a different thing. Now, overlaying a different thing, I just choose a different thing in the blueprint, and that's not too hard. And I also want to overlay this sort of dirt material when it's broken. So how do we do that with parameters? So the most obvious way is to have a switch, because what you want is that if it's broken, use that material, otherwise use that material. But this is, as the name suggests, a static switch. You can't pass parameters to switches. It's somewhat annoying and fairly arbitrary, but the way around it is to use one way around it is to use a linear interpolator, so that your input value is just a float between 0 and 1. 1 is true, 0 is false. So plug that in. When it's false, it picks A. When it's true, it picks B. So that is the same functionality, just using a float. So when it's broken, it uses this panner as the input for the textures, for the UVs rather. And if it's not broken, it just uses the straight texture coordinates. And here, it multiplies it with that if it's true, and it multiplies by 1, that is to say it doesn't change it if that is false. So that is how to use still a single material to display different ticks and crosses, or to make it look broken, all using the same material. Little tip, probably. And there was one other thing. That other thing was quite a big thing, which is the destructible meshes for the walls. I got distracted. So here is the wall blueprint, and it uses this mesh. Very, very boring mesh, has very few things in it. And first of all, in later versions of the engine, you have to enable as a plugin plugins. Let's see. Come on, little plugin. Down somewhere is physics. Apex destruction. Turn that on, and that'll return you the old create destructible mesh. Click on that, and you get this thing, which has been in since forever. This is being replaced by a snazzy new destructible mesh system, but it's not really there yet. And yeah, so you just fracture the mesh. You can play with how many chunks. 50 is nice, but it's getting a little bit unwieldy, so I think I'll go back to 40. Now there's things you have to check. You have to go to debris timeout, and I also found then you have to enable debris, and you also have to change the debris depth, I think. And I don't know why that's showing as modified. And I've added a dust particle system and a little noise, so that automatically fires when it blows up. So yeah, I've shown you that already. You can go back to that. And I've got a few events that are called, and this is my wall. So I've got one that fires from my bomb saying take bomb damage. I also get an event saying you're broken, but this one I want to treat separately because it allows me to pass the origin, and also pass. You can work out the distance from knowing what actor you are, but the origin tells you where the blast happened. So this then passes on these things to this standard function in my game object. So that's all abstracted up, so that I as a wall only need to make this one call if I'm taking bomb damage. And I have a check on how far I want it to blow up, and I think I'm going to take that right down. And you pass, in this case, you pass a reference to the mesh you want to replace, and I'm passing a reference to the destructible mesh, which is the one I've just built. The impulse I want to have, which is just a suckered and C amount, and then the distance of how far I want things to do, which allows it to scale it, as I've shown you before. So spawn and blow up destructible mesh, I think I've talked you through this. It does those things, applies a radius damage, which is the way to get a wall to blow out in the direction away from the blast. If you just do apply damage, it spreads out from the point where it hit rather than from the origin where the blast is coming from. I could show you that, but I can't be bothered. And that's how it makes those. So yes, at the time that these are blown up, it turns off the collision of visibility of the mesh, spawns a new destructible mesh using the transform of this, so it's in exactly the same place, and then it applies a damage of lots and lots and lots, and it shatters from the origin of this bomb it's going to be. So I'm going to blow myself up. And for some reason changing the radius at which walls blow up has changed the relative amount of impulse, so I'm going to have to tweak that. Let's just do one more. So we are, that's, what? Did I just put down a, no, it's replaceable. So let's try a bigger impulse. One last go and then I'll stop rambling. So I'm putting the bomb right next to the wall, and another wall there. Recover to a safe distance. Alright, so maybe that's the effect I want. Perhaps that wall shouldn't be blown up if it's that far away. I think I quite like that because you need to place the bombs carefully to blow up a wall. I think that's the best thing. And maybe I need to dial that impulse down a bit. Or else I think I need to clamp it a bit more. So I'm just going to game object, spawn and blow up. There we go. So I clamp it, maybe the impulse. So I'm going to do this thing where I clamp it at 0.1 and 0.9 to make it slightly less mad, because all physics stuff goes mad if you get close to points where the force is being applied. Let's just try that again. That should blow up both of them. Mr. Bomb. And a bomb wall further away. And a wall that may or may not blow up. And here, because of the line of sight check outside initially, I don't die. There we go. So I think that's alright. And that one stayed. So there we go. Bye bye.